Hi, everybody. I was running around trying to find my glasses. But I found them. Okay, I have chat popped out somewhere here. I gotta find it. If I didn't just close it down. I found it, and then, all right. I must have closed it. I can't see you. So if you can see me, hello and happy Mother's Day to those of you in the U.S. who celebrate Mother's Day and our mother and all of that. I cannot see you. I'm going to have to. Okay. Let's do this again. Live events. I already popped it out. I would like to know where that went, but we won't mess with that. I'm going to have to hear myself briefly. Let's pause. Pop it out again. Apparently, I must have canceled that one. Okay. Cancel. There we go. All right. I think we are golden. Hecate's Crossing celebrated Mother's Day yesterday. Actually, I did as well. That's why we are having live chat today. I expect there to be not so many people today, at least from the U.S., because a lot of people are spending time with their mothers or their kids are doing things for them. All of the things that can happen. My daughter and niece actually came over yesterday, and last year, I don't know if people who've been around for a while, I had last year for Mother's Day, I told my daughter, don't get me anything for Mother's Day. I don't need anything else in this apartment. What I need is your time. So I'm like, please just give me one day to like declutter my apartment, because I have a very small apartment and it gets cluttered very easily. So she came over and did that, and it was the best thing ever. And then see, Jamie knew. She's definitely been around forever. So this year I said, let's do the same thing. And so my niece came over as well, because I have a storage locker in the basement and I have like a storage closet in my bedroom. And those were overflowing because when my ex had sold the house, he just kind of dumped a bunch of stuff that was in the attic. So you know how it is. Things build up when you're 50 years old, right? So we powered through yesterday through the locker, cleaned it all out. Everything that's in there is stuff that I really need to keep. Same thing with my storage closet that had turned into a storage locker. Everything's out of there except for what I want to keep. And then my daughter stayed and we went through my kitchen. I have a very small kitchen, extremely small, but I love to cook and I love kitchen appliances. So that was a disaster. And so we found a shelf that would go in front of, I have like literally have a small space of counter, but then in front of it is just part of the dining room. So we found a bookshelf that would go, a shelving, 3 levels of shelves that would go right in front of it that fit all of my kitchen appliances on it. And because they're big things. Like I love my Instapot. I'm an Instapot fanatic. I love it. I have big soup pots because I make a lot of soup. I have like a cast iron Dutch oven because I make lots of soups. I have an air fryer, which I love to have, and I love to have access to it, and so on and so forth. I like kitchen appliances. And so we found the perfect size that fits it perfectly. I've been looking for like a year, and I finally found one that fit, because it was either they were too short and it didn't work, or they were too long. And I found the perfect one, but I just didn't know. I don't have a car that would get it. And her new cars, the seats can lay down. And so I know I'm telling you way more information than you care to hear. But I'm so excited about it because I've literally been trying to do this forever. But her car seats lay flat, and we could slide it right in, and it's perfect. So we did that, and then we went through every single kitchen cupboard and drawer in my kitchen, and again weeded out. So it was fabulous. I'm very sore because lots of going up and down stairs and carrying boxes, but it was fantastic. And she's actually coming over today, I have a fabulous daughter, her own volition. She's coming over today because we want to I have two closets in my bedroom, and one was just pure storage, and some of it was overflowing into the other. So we're going to like adjust, like kind of balance those out, what goes where. And I have a little tiny, I don't think you can see it, but I have a little coat closet. I don't know if you can see it. I'll move this. Yeah, see where all the paint is hanging? That is a little tiny coat closet. And that's the only space in my little tiny apartment that hasn't been decluttered. It's got like tools and things like that in it. And so we're going to go through that today and then organize the bedroom closet. So she's fabulous. Let me just tell you, if you have a mother, offer her to do something like that, because that is way more valuable to me than anything else. She did also, I can best see it. I can't show you, Jamie. I'll take a picture and put it on Instagram, Jamie, because I can't move this away from the computer, and you won't be able to see it. So anyways, babbling, because I'm so proud of my daughter, because, you know, it's easy to give a bouquet of flowers. Whoops, I need to turn this off. But to give like that much work is fantastic. And my niece too, she's like my second daughter, and she busted her butt. Like, how awesome is that? Sorry, but mothers can have a moment to brag on their daughters on Mother's Day. If any time you're going to do that, the time to do that is on Mother's Day, right? Brag on your daughter. I'm very proud of my children. Obviously, my son has passed on, but I'm very proud of him and the young man that he became, and I'm very proud of my daughter. And they're obviously the best things that I've ever created in my entire life. However, I will say this, that Mother's Day is difficult for people, right? As all of these holidays are, there's always two sides of that coin. There are a lot of people who do not have good experiences with their mother, and there are a lot of mothers who do not have good experience with their children. There are also people who would like to be mothers and aren't, and people who are mothers who shouldn't be. You know, there's a whole, I feel like all holidays have so much emphasis and so much energy are put into these days that they are fraught with they're fraught with so many emotions. They stir up so many, even for myself. Like, I love Mother's Day, obviously, because my daughter, half of my reason for being a mother is missing. So there's always a bittersweet aspect to that. Some people have mothers who they absolutely loved and are missing. And some mothers have children that are missing. Like, it's just, it's when you really think about holidays, when you think about all of the holidays that we put so much power into year after year after year, is building up memories, right? And building up hurts because maybe we wished we'd had a daughter or we don't, or you know, their kids are nasty, which can happen, right? It's so, yes, exactly, Cottage Witch. There's so much pressure on these kinds of days because they're fraught with so much powerful emotion. So it can be very difficult to navigate. I think, especially as in a community sense where there's a lot of people gathering together, it can be very difficult to navigate because of those mixed emotions, where some people like me are on a mix of sadness and then also on a mix of a high, because I do have a fabulous daughter who, you know, will take the time and loves to spend time with me and that kind of thing, and will do that go the extra mile, so to speak. So that's a mix there. And then you've got other people who kind of avoid contact with people on these days because it's not a fabulous thing. So, you know, it's hard. Or, you know, Ozark Oracle saying, you know, she has a mother with Alzheimer's, and not only that, they have a difficult relationship. So it's just fraught with emotions, right? Yeah, I think that it's just, family dynamics are so incredibly complex, aren't they? So incredibly complex. And I know that I am lucky to have my mother. You know, we almost lost her. And so we are definitely very, I mean, we're cognizant all of the days, right? But on Mother's Day, we are extra cognizant that we very easily could have not had her, or have her in a capacity in which she couldn't communicate with us. So, you know, things it's just it's an interesting, holidays in general, I think, are powerful and fraught with so many emotions and complicated, like people are, right? I guess that's the case, right? People in general are complicated. Families are complicated. Family dynamics are extremely complicated. And so that makes holidays in which, they're generally centered around, a lot of times, around family things. Christmases and Thanksgivings and these kinds of things are centered around the family unit in many ways, unless we take those steps to kind of reclaim them, which I've seen a lot of people who have done so, right? Where they maybe they don't have a great family experience. And so Christmas can have, let's say, negative connotations to them because it didn't mean the happy things that other children had. Taking the steps to reclaim that holiday for themselves and making new ways of celebrating those days that resonate with them are can be some ways in which we kind of claim back certain days. But it's going to always be fraught with emotion. And so for the people out there today and other holidays, but today is Mother's Day, who haven't had a good relationship with their mother, or don't have a good relationship with their children, or haven't been able to experience motherhood and really want to be able to experience it. So for other people out there in those kinds of complicated categories, I do wish you a lot of peace today, because I do know it can be difficult. Maybe that's one of those days that you do sort of step away from social media because it doesn't help you, it doesn't feed you. So maybe stepping away from social media and doing something for yourself, doing something, going out, and whatever that looks like to you, going out and taking a walk, or painting, or doing something that feeds you in a way that maybe this particular holiday isn't feeding your soul, might be your best bet. But then also for the people out there who are mothers, or have a mother that, they're celebrating, happy Mother's Day to you. But I think just everybody, if we're all a little bit more sensitive to the fact that these holidays can be very complicated, I think that helps. So, okay, enough of that. I just find it interesting. I think that I just think it fascinates me to look at things like holidays, especially since my son has passed. Holidays have taken on these really complicated energies to them, right? They were complicated when he was alive because he was sick for his whole life. And so there was always that little bit sense of extra pressure in a way, or extra, almost a manic desire to have it be everything and perfect, and because you just don't know, I never knew since he was born, how long would that last, how long would we have him for Christmases, how long so there was always that extra energy placed on holidays. And then of course, since he's passed, it's both, because I have a daughter who she loves holidays, and so we need to celebrate those holidays. At the same time, there is always that mourning aspect that's there, right? And so I think that has broadened my interest in the fact that how much power is placed in those single days, because you have these repeated memories and this whole, many of them, a whole world who's putting all of these feelings and these energies and these emotions, both positive and negative, into these single days, right? So they take on such a powerful connotation. I think that's something, it's interesting. It's something to chew on, and it's interesting. But so I find it interesting to think about the complications and the energy power points that are holidays. So enough of that. It is actually a rainy day. I see some people I'm sorry, I was rambling. So when I'm rambling, I can't really watch the chat close because I can't talk and read at the same time. I can skim sometimes and talk, but not all the time. But I did see Claire had put storm or rain clouds. So I'm sure that it is. I'm sure that's raining in other places. It's been raining here for a couple of days, but That's okay. That's okay. All the work's been inside. Hello, Miss Veronica. I was just going to say, excuse me, we don't have a moderator in the house. Miss Nikki had messaged me when she saw that the time had changed, um, that she wouldn't be able to be on today. But Smotherly, Diana Smotherly to friends and family. Yes, there are many mother type people. I think that's another interesting conversation. But I do think you can very much be a mother and a mother energy, whether you have children or you don't. I have friends like that as well. It's very sunny and warm in Britain, where it's normally raining, but it's rainy here and in Tennessee, according to Heather. It's pouring. Yeah. I mean, and we need the rain. I know we lots of times we complain about the rain. Or we go, oh my goodness, rain, go away, come again another day, right? We need the rain. We need the rain, at least up here where there's 4 full climates. Like, we need the rain to come so that the crops can grow and the flowers can grow. So all of those things are important. But for me and my daughter, it actually makes it easier to do the inside work when it's raining. So you don't feel like, oh, I should go out to the park and take a walk. You feel like, okay, it's raining. Let's, crack down and get some work done. So it can be helpful in that way. Why don't we, since I've rambled through much of the beginning of this video, but it's important. It's an interesting, important topic. Let's pull our weekly card. We had the 8 of Wands last week. That nothing ever is, but all things are becoming. All things are the offspring of flux and motion. So this idea of things are constantly moving. How can you work with that energy last week? How can you just roll with the energy and not fight against things that are constantly in motion, right? So I quite loved that, but now it's time for next week's card from the Art of Living. If you're new to the channel, we've recently started doing a card a week from the Art of Life, just because I think somebody had asked me, I can't remember her username. If I saw it, I would know it. And she'd asked to pull a card, and it's become a thing. So that's what we're going to do next. So let me give these a good shuffle. So this is a deck that has art, like gallery art, like beautiful art pieces that you would see in the museums, so to speak. And then it also has quotes. So various quotes. I use this a little bit more as an oracle deck. I take note of the tarot deck card that's there, but for me, it does feel a little bit more like an oracle deck. Amazing oracle deck than it does as much a tarot card. I see that they're crushed. I know I've missed all kinds of things, so I do apologize. Happy Mother's Day, Mia. Yes. Have I seen the Victorian Tarot by Tarot? I saw your pictures, I think, Chris. I think those are the only things I've seen about it. I need to take a closer look at it, although I am avoiding decks at the moment. I have a couple decks coming. I have the Light Seers Tarot coming. I have, when that gets put out, which I think is close, I have the Wonder Walkers Oracle, which I'm so excited about. She's actually received the decks, so those are coming up. That's coming fairly soon. I have the Majestic Earth, which I think we just got an update that the box has now been fixed and everything has been okayed. So that's going off to the printer. So that's going to still probably be a couple months away. And I think those are the 3 that I have. Oh, no, the Botanical deck. two botanical decks. The botanical, what was that called? I'm so sorry. It's by the Cracked Amethyst, who did the Idiosyncra deck. She did a combination tarot oracle deck of plants, and that was all done when she did the pre-order. We got one extra suit that is carnivorous plants, and so that is that's coming. I don't know when that's coming. And then I know I'm generally not a Kickstarter person, but most of these are from last year. So the only one of these that is this year is the botanical deck, and I was waiting for that one, or I knew I was going to back that one when it came. But the rest of these are from last year. So, and then I did pre-order. I pre-ordered the Herb Crafters Tarot that's coming out by US Games. That looks amazing. I'm taking an herbalism class, online class. And I've worked with herbs and things on my own studying for a long time. And so I'm definitely very excited about the botanical and the herb crafter one. So those, I already have like all of those coming at some point this year. So I am trying to be good, but Chris, definitely that one is something for me to keep my eye on because it looked really cool. I haven't watched Justin's walkthrough, and I need to do so. Yeah, I kind of feel like that too, Jamie. Jamie says she doesn't have remorse, but she's not doing any more until she gets the ones. Because I do feel like I have quite a few from last year that I'm still waiting for. For me, I don't usually do a lot of Kickstarters. So I do feel like I have a lot of decks that are out there, like waiting. And so I'm really not too interested in backing any other decks until those start to kind of pull themselves in. Eliza can't wait for her herb crafters. Oh, you got to see it in person. It does look gorgeous. I think Arwen, she did a walkthrough on her channel. That was the first time I think I was able to see all the cards, but I'm really excited about that one. Victorian Tarot is beautiful, says Claire. Yeah, it looks like, yeah, she's kind of wandering back there. She's getting some water, eating some food. She was a little discombobulated from all the activity yesterday because my niece I have two great nephews that are younger, and so they were over here whilst we were cleaning, and then it was all the boxes and pulling things and banging around, and so she was definitely a little, but then also excited because she sees my niece and my nephews and my daughter, obviously, but certainly every week for D&D night on Tuesdays, she sees them, so she was excited by the company, but then didn't like all the banging and carrying boxes, so she was a little discombobulated. Anyways, I need to pull this card. Miss Nikki's not here to say, pull the card, Kelly. Stop shut. No, she's not like that. In a very nicest way. She's like, those cards are shuffled. All right, let's see what our card is for this week. Ooh, Five of Swords. Sometimes I go about pitying myself, and all the time I'm being carried on great winds across the sky. So this is a beautiful, it's a beautiful Five of Swords. It's kind of fitting for me because obviously, as I said, today is a little bit bittersweet, with half of my reason for being a mother not being on this particular earthly plane. I love this version of the Five of Cups because it is so contemplative. So I just really love the energy of this image for the Five of Swords. But then I feel like the Ojibwe saying, I took a lot of classes from an Ojibwe teacher when I was in college, a lot of Native American folklore and literature classes. And our family, we have a little bit of Native American, and it is the Ojibwe. I love the bluntness there, right? Because whilst we don't want anybody, and nor should anybody from outside be very blunt with us, we should never go to somebody and say, stop pitying yourself, be thankful for XYZ. Like, never say that. The only thing that you should ever say to somebody who is struggling is, I'm sorry, and is there anything that I can do to help? I really do believe much of the awkwardness of people saying things that are inappropriate to people who have lost people who are struggling with a particular thing they don't know or don't understand. Most of that could be solved by just saying, I'm so sorry. Is there anything that I can do for you? That's it. That's all you've got to say. But one of the great things about cards is that in the privacy of our own space, we can have these moments of clarity, right? We can have these moments of in your face a little bit that says, look, yes, sometimes sometimes it is the time to have a bit of a pity, and that's okay. I'm a firm believer that having a good old wallow is not a bad thing. What I find for my own self is that that wallowing can't go on forever, right? So I will literally give myself time. I'll simply say, okay, you know what? This is a really hard week for you in terms of grieving or whatever's going on. So go ahead and wallow. Have a pity party, wallow, feel all of the feels, right? For a week or for the weekend or for a week or whatever, depending on the severity that is needed for the wallow time, right? Say, feel it, like sit with it, be with it. It's okay to feel these things. But then remember that all of the time that you are still experiencing pain, you're still being carried with great winds across the sky. There's still movement, there's still life, there's still flow out there. And you're still, while you're having that moment of feeling those real feelings, you're still moving, and you should be still moving. And there's a beautiful sky out there, and there's a beautiful sunset out there or a sunrise out there. So I think that I love cards like this, because whilst I would not want somebody to come up to me and say those things, I think you can take it from a less personal level when it's a card and it says, okay, yeah, I can really go there. I can understand that. So that's something for us to think about this week is, feel the feels. I don't believe we should not feel what we're feeling. But as I think a few people have said, don't unpack, don't stay there forever, and kind of keep moving. And so good card, good card. I'm going to stick this into its little slot. It's kind of tricky because if you get behind the laminate, if you get this deck, and a lot of people have liked this deck, if you go behind the laminate, it will get stuck. Don't do that. I did that once. One of the things that got me through so much loss is my aunt saying, you come from strong to, yes, this too will pass. Yeah, things like that really help. In my family, it's all will be well. I've said this a billion times, and I hate repeating myself over and over, but there's always new people, and there's always a time for remembering. When I was in college studying, I think this was my medieval literature class, I had read and translated part of it was we had to translate out of Old English and things, medieval period English. We had to translate some of the pieces, and so I translated one full poem, a book poem, but then I also translated and worked with part of Julian of Norwich's, I'm totally blanking on the name of the title. I just had a brain freeze. Anyways, Messages of Divine Love. I have it back there. I can't remember. But anyways, one of the things that really caught me about, and this was a woman who'd lost her entire family to the plague. She'd lost children, her husband, I think her entire family was wiped out by a horrible plague that had gone through. And so she became an anchoress, which at the time were women, generally, I think always women for the most part, who would have themselves walled into a church where I think different things, ways of doing it, but where pretty much you could just see sort of the altar, maybe the cross that was at the altar. And she spent her rest of her life in contemplation of the divine mysteries. And of course, a lot of us are horrified by that thought. But there's a lot of mysticism and powerful mysticism in the Catholic history, and they were definitely mystics, when you have that time. And so she wrote Messages of Divine Love. Don't quote me on that title, but it's close to that. But anyways, one of the beautiful things about that particular book, is that she wrote about, in a very patriarchal religion, being Roman Catholic, especially in that time period, very patriarchal mindset. She wrote about God as father and mother. She really wrote about the nurturing motherhood of God, and in a powerful way. But one of the sentences in there that she says is, all will be well, and all will be well, and all manner of things will be well. And that has become sort of a mantra for me. In fact, my daughter has my handwriting, all will be well and all will be well, written on the back of her leg. It's very strange to see my handwriting on her back. Yeah, Raven Song, I think, especially a medieval, scratch a medieval Catholic and you will find a pagan. I definitely agree with that. But so having those kinds of statements, that was a big ramble to say, because I was talking to, and now I've lost it. Yes, this idea of you coming from strong stock. So we have that. So my daughter, she says that now because I've said it to her most of her life. All will be well. All will be well. Like this, yes, this is really sucks right now, but everything's going to be okay, right? All will be well. And then you're you're the stuff of fairy queens. So she probably will need to get that tattooed as well, because we do have a fairy queen in our family history. And so when things really get, the shit hits the fan, so to speak, I always am like, you are better than this. Like you're the stuff of fairy queens. You are strong, powerful, put your shoulders back and get on with it. Right. That's kind of our rallying call. So it's funny how phrases like that can become that sort of that rally call that you can kind of bring yourself back to center or get your shoulders back, right? So the all will be well centers ourselves. And then for me and my daughter, the all will be well is just like, okay, take a breath, everything's okay. And the hey, you're the stuff of fairy queens puts the shoulders back and says, hey, get your shoulders back, get your chin up and move forward because you're powerful. So let's see. I'm going to put that there. I remember your survival rate so far. It's been 100%. You will survive this. Yes, for sure. I'm sorry. Sherry's talking about something. They're passing through and only sleeping now. Yeah, that's sweet. Sometimes people say great things, Sherry, don't they? I'm glad that you had, and I did. I have definitely had some things that were said in sweet ways, but I will say I could probably write a book on the inappropriate things that people have said to me, both while my son was sick his whole life and after he died. Like people, and not always, 90% of the time, it comes from a place, a good place, or a desire to be a good place. I don't know. It comes from a desire to say something and be helpful, but it can be really, really not come out that way. And I mean, the stuff that people say is like, don't open your mouth and just let anything come out to a grieving person. Just say I'm sorry. That is my rule of thumb for everybody that asks. Like, well, what is the right thing to say? The right thing to say is, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. If there's anything I can do for you, let me know. And then you can tell from that person, like some people do want to have that talk and that morally uplifting conversation that says you can do this and have that cheerleader. And I think you'll be able to tell from their response if they want a cheerleading session. I don't personally like or need often somebody to be my cheerleader. And so for me, I don't want somebody to give me a cliche or to tell me something like that if you're in the midst of grief, right? And so for me, it definitely works just to say, I'm sorry. Is there anything I can do to help? And if it's like, oh yeah, I could use a converse talk, like let's go talk this through or whatever, anyways, it's an interesting thing. I'm sure somebody's written a book on the terrible things that people say when you shouldn't. Ozark Oracle says, when I was in labor, my dad was my labor coach. Go dad. And with each contraction would say, this too shall pass. Yep. I always like to saying too that you can pretty much deal with anything if you have if you know that it isn't going to last forever, right? Which I think is one of those hard things about grief, is that it is something that's going to last forever. I do think that's one of the difficult parts of grief. Whereas a lot of things that we have in life, that comes up a lot in our family conversations too. Like, okay, this is really tough, but we know that we can get out the other side of it. There's no way that this situation is going to be here forever. Let's just get through it. As long as you know, all right, I've got to deal with this for 6 months or whatever it is, then you buckle down and you get it done. You're the stuff of fairy queens, right? That's when that conversation comes up. Yeah, I agree, Diana. It is very important to give moral support and uplifting for those. But I think the problem is, the difficulty is what is uplifting for one people. What is uplifting for one person is frustrating or irritating or rubs a wound for another person. So we have to be so careful about that. So there are things that we can say. I think that leaves the door open for the person to see what they need, versus kind of inputting our wisdom and advice on somebody who's in the middle of shock or grief or whatever they're in the middle of, kind of putting that on it. It's cliches are funny things, aren't they? Because in some ways they become cliches because they are said so often, because they have that truth that's in a lot of them, because they've been said over and over and over again, that now we're like, oh, that's just a stupid cliche. But a lot of times they are true, right? There is a truth to those cliches. But the problem is I think we get lackadaisical about how we just throw those out there, instead of really thinking about what that might feel to the person that we are imparting this cliche on, or this piece of wisdom that we found. I think Sherry, I'm so sorry for, I don't know if she's talking about a past. I'm careful to try not to, when I see there's like a solid conversation going on, but I haven't seen the whole conversation, because I just can't watch the chats and these live chats enough to catch it all. So I really hate to slide anything in on a conversation that looks powerful, but I am so sorry for your loss, whenever that may have occurred. And I'm just going to leave it at that, because I don't know all the details. But this is what I'm saying, though. I do think that things like holidays and even Mother's Day and these types of things, it just stirs things up, because they're powerful emotions wrapped around these days. Becky Beetle, can you please tell us a fairy queen story? In a nutshell, no, I have your conversation, Sherry. I'm not trying to stop the conversation. I just am kind of picking up little pieces, and I'm like, oh, I don't really want to say anything when I don't know all the details. So sorry for your loss. Oh yes, back to back with your mom. Yeah, that's rough. Strong woman. I just found, actually, I had pulled up a lot of, when I was cleaning out the storage unit, obviously there was tons of papers and things, and I had a Ziploc where I had gathered lots of information and family tree things and all that stuff, to write. Actually, it was my goal someday to write, a fictional account of the fairy queen is Anya. And I don't know that that's even how you pronounce it. That's how I always pronounced it, because I only ever saw it in books and I was young, and so it could be pronounced differently. But for me, that's who it is, and she knows who she is, right? So yeah, the very first Fitzgerald, before it was Fitzgerald. Fitz just means son of Gerald. So the very first Gerald. So the story goes. Couple different stories. Either got with, in a romantic way, a fairy queen who now you would see her in texts and things as a goddess, but she was more known as a fairy queen. So either, got with her in a romantic way or raped her. There was a lot of the gods and goddess stories can sometimes be quite violent. And so you can see them in different capacities and depending on how you see it. But either way, she ended up pregnant. And the first Fitzgerald would have been born in fairyland, and he still comes back apparently every 7 years and rides around a particular lake, but he ended up being a wizard. So I guess we're the stuff of fairy queens and wizards, and possibly some not so nice men. But yeah, and that was the beginning of the line. But there's obviously much more beautiful stories behind the stories. But so that's why we use that. You're the stuff of fairy queens, who was very powerful, very strong. Put your shoulders back and step forward, right? Step into your power. Because if you think about it, because of the way that I was raised, right, for most of my life, so from 5th or 6th grade through my 12th grade year, was a very fundamentalist Christian. And again, not that's why those stories are very hard to tell, Tammy. Maybe they had to say it was that because there wasn't a marriage that was involved. So yeah, there's all kinds of underpinnings of these types of things. But because I was raised for very formative in terms of female, your feminine identity, right? Because I was raised in a very strict, and again, not a normal Christian. This is not against Christianity. It was a very fundamentalist, extremist mindset of Christianity, where femininity, being a female, was not a good thing. Or being a female puts you at the bottom of the rung. Being a female puts you in question of whether you even had the worth of a soul. And being a female was definitely, again, you had your tier, and a woman was at the bottom. Person who, you're of the race of the gender that was responsible for the fall of Eden, right? So growing up with that sort of mindset, one of the knowing that story and having studied or researched a little bit, even when I was younger, but then more as an adult, and reclaiming that sort of, hey, you're the stuff of fairy queens. Don't worry about all that other stuff, right? That really was empowering for me, and empowering for my, obviously for my daughter, because I say it all the time to her when she's like snowballing into panic or something. It's like, hey, you're the stuff of fairy queens. You've got this covered. It's my intention, Becky Beetle. It is definitely always has been my intention forever, but there's just always something else to do. This is definitely, we're like going, but it's all connecting in some way. It's all connecting in some way. It's okay. We don't expect our live chats to have too strong of a connection. Oh, can we talk about the plastic straw from last week, just to get off the heavier topics for a moment? I tried a metal, so in my search for, like sure, I cannot wait for that as well. I tried a metal straw this week. That was an utter failure. I'm not a metal straw person. I'm going to have to try the next. I went to Bed Bath & Beyond, and they had the metal straws. They did not have the bamboo straws somebody recommended, and they didn't have paper straws. So I just got the metal straws to try those. Not a fan. I kept banging them into my teeth, which was terrible with metal, and it didn't taste. It was a good set. It didn't taste good. No, I'm not a fan of the metal straws. So now I'm on the hunt for some paper straws and some bamboo straws. I know the glass one is a little scary for breaking. Anyways. I know Becky B is going to hoard plastic straws. I'm gonna try the bamboo. I feel like is good because I use bamboo, other things in the kitchen bamboo. So I do feel like bamboo might be my option. Miss Veronica said it's great. So I'm gonna see if they probably have them on Amazon. I had just gone over thinking maybe they would have them at Bed Bath and Beyond, but they didn't. So I tried the metal. That was a waste of $8. Jamie got glass straws on Amazon because of last week's chat. Yeah, I thought we should bring that chat to full circle. I'm still on the hunt for the best straw. Just to let you know about the paper ones, they fall apart as soon as they get wet. Yeah, no, that's why I'm thinking bamboo might be. I might be inclined towards the bamboo. World Market. Yeah, I'll try there. Yeah, I agree, Hermit of the Moon. I know I'm trying to save you money even as I convince you to buy decks. With my deck reviews, sometimes I do try to save you money. And I would say, I mean, there are people who love metal straws. So maybe you're going to love a metal straw, Jones Davy, but I did not love it at all. Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of bamboo products now. I have felt like bamboo cloth. People are talking about bamboo underwear. I've not seen bamboo toilet paper, but apparently that's great. So maybe bamboo is going to be the best place for the straws. I'll let you know next week if I find a bamboo straw and what I think about it. Important topics here. Important topics. Fairy queens, grief, complications of Mother's Day and holidays in general. You know, it's all important. Let's pull. I know we're not at 12 o'clock, but we definitely need more hemp products. Bamboo sheets I have felt, and they are amazing. And Raven Song did have a good point last week and this week that that you can use long pipe cleaners for cleaning straws, but I have not yet been able to try that out because I have not yet been able to. I didn't keep the metal straw long enough to need to do that. It did come with its own little like cleaning thing, but these weren't really long. These were just, actually it was just shaped just like a plastic straw. It was even bent a little bit. We need to buy a bamboo straw sponsor, says Jones Davy. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and pull now because I don't think I'm going to be staying on the full 2 hours because my daughter is coming back over to continue the decluttering and just going through everything. Like, it's really a good thing, I will say. And it helps that I'm in a very small apartment, right? So it's harder the bigger your house is and the more things have been accumulated. But I think that it really helps to just be forced to go through everything, right? If you're literally having to look through everything in a storage unit or in a closet where you can just shut the door away and you don't look at it, right? Being able to or forced to sit down and look through it all every so often, I think is actually really a powerful, good experience because it forces you to see what you like. Look, I haven't used any of this. I haven't looked at any of this since I moved here 4 years ago, or whatever it is. So that process I think is very helpful to be able to then say, I don't need this. Each time, like what I was able to get rid of last year was different than, and I got rid of more because I really liked how that felt last year, getting rid of some more, right? Jones Davy, no decks. I already decluttered my decks, actually. I need to, one of my jobs before she gets here is to clean all my desk out and organize this again, which I do constantly. I'm sorry, Raven Song, I left that accidentally. Yes, people get really upset about this poll. It's very funny because I don't know why it upsets people. I have gotten messages about it. I'm a single, I live by myself most of the time. Obviously, people can come over, but when I first moved out on my own, when I left my ex, that was the first time I was ever in an apartment by myself. And my first apartment was in a bottom floor. And so my mom, I know, but it's so funny that Becky, it doesn't upset me either, but it upsets people for some reason. But anyways, my mom, did my mom get me this? It's literally been like 8 or 9 years. I think my mom got me this. And it was my first time living alone. I come from 7 children, and then I was married right away. I know I'm not afraid. It's just every night I put it in because it does help if you break into a door, you can't push the door open. So I apologize because I just rushed in here. I was trying to find my glasses and didn't pull it off of the door, which just sometimes doesn't happen until like my daughter comes over or something. And I just got used to having it on. Now I'm in a second floor story thing, so it's not something that bothers me, but it's just a habit now. And plus my mother will be like, do you have my mom, I'm 50, but my mom still treats me like I would treat my daughter. Like, you got your precautions in place. So yes, that's what that is, Raven Song. It is a door blocker. And I've had it again since I was first out on my own on a first floor apartment, which did actually make me nervous just because, again, had never lived by myself. And so it made me nervous. So there you go. That's what that is. And I usually try to remember to pull it off because it does worry people. And I just forgot because I was running around in the morning and getting ready to do this. And then I had to run around and find my glasses and I forgot. So I'm sure I'll get some messages about it. Everybody, it's okay. It's been on my door every day for 8 years. Nothing new, no new fears, just normal precautions. Sherry said her mom would be the same way. Yeah, it was too funny because when I was like 40, let's see, I'm 50. I'm bad about dates. That would have been actually, yeah, about 8 years ago. So I would have been in early 40s, and you would have thought I was a teenager moving out for the first time with my mother. I was in my 40s. And I really didn't treat me any differently than I did my daughter when she moved out on her own and she was young. So we never stopped being mothers, I guess. Becky Beetle says, what kind of eyeliner do you use? I am going to guess, I do like this eyeliner a lot. It's a felt tip. I always use a felt tip. My eyes are very sensitive. So there's very few like mascaras and things that I can put on my eyes that don't irritate my eyes. So my guess, I think it's Maybelline. It's a pharmacy brand. Meaning I'm not pharmacy brand. How do you say that? It's just something you can buy at the pharmacy. I'm pretty sure it's Maybelline's. If you look at the stick, they, it looks like it's bent, and it has a felt tip to it, and that's the eyeliner that I always use. So hopefully that helps. If you really need to know, message me, and I can look up what the brand is. I think it's Maybelline. It's either L'Oreal or Maybelline, but thank you, drugstore brand. It's usually Maybelline because Maybelline mascara doesn't irritate my eyes. And so because that's so close to my, same place where my lash line is, that I generally stick with Maybelline. And then sometimes I'll use another mascara that I like better over the top of a coat of Maybelline, but my eyes are just really sensitive. So it's probably Maybelline. That was a long way to say what I think it is. Sorry about that. Okay. I feel like I missed something, but I do love Heliocrystalline oil as well, Ozark. I think I don't know what they're talking about. I think they're talking about CBD oil is what I think they're talking about. That's something I use to sleep, and it does help a lot. Kelly, you could have passed the door during long to your door. She has one, Deborah. She has one. In fact, very well. She has actually, I think she has two. But yeah, she does have one already. So I did pass it along. Okay, something on a shot. I don't know what's happening there. Talking about, I think you're talking about CBD oil. CBD oil, just if people are watching the conversation, obviously, CBD oil is cannabis oil, but it is from plants that do not have or not bred for the THC. So, you can have cannabis that has high levels of THC, which is what allows to get high, but it does have also some medical things that can help with. We did use cannabis oils and oils, and I'm trying to think of, anyways, he couldn't burn things, so it was more of I can't, my brain's not working today. Anyways, uses with my son, and it helped amazingly for his pain relief. And it was legal for medicine in the state that we were in. But CBD oil it has all of the benefits of cannabis minus the THC. So at least in the United States, it's legal. I'm pretty sure it's legal in all the states. And you can buy it at health food stores, and you can buy it at my sister's state. You can buy it, the really good brand, she can buy at her grocery store. So it's minus all of, it has to be under like 0.0. Don't quote me on this number because it's not exact, but it's like it has to be under like 0.05% of THC. So it can't get you high. It doesn't have any of that sort of mood boosting, but it has all of the benefits of the medical properties in terms of sleep aid, pain, some pain relief. Although in my personal experience, I don't think it has the same degree of pain relief as straight cannabis does. So yeah, so that's the conversation that they're having, is about CBD oil. Tammy Pie says not all the states. There's a qualification in some of the states on CBD oil. It just has to be under. It has to be under the THC. It's just one of those. That's a whole nother conversation, right? This whole conversation about people misunderstanding or going into all these fits over cannabis oils and using cannabis for medicine, which I've just never understood, because alcohol does far more damage, and that's perfectly legal. And not to mention, a lot of our medicines, strong medicines that like morphine and higher end painkillers that we will gladly use with a prescription pad are from plants, right? Their base chemicals are coming out of plants. So anyways, that's a whole nother conversation. CBD and magnesium save my stomach. Yeah, as with all things, all things, people, every single person is different, and I think that's another thing that's an interesting conversation, is just because something is sold on a shelf in a health food store, even then, right, it doesn't necessarily mean you don't have in fact, you have a much higher need to research it for yourself, understand how that is going to affect you, understand how that's going to affect your health, talk to your doctor if your doctor is somebody that you can talk about alternative medications, right? So I think that I use a lot of health food things, a lot of essential oils, a lot of supplements and things like that. And I think it's a fantastic way to take care of your whole body. But I always caution people that just because it's easy to get on a shelf doesn't mean that it's fine to take and take as much as you want. It means that you need to do the extra work of making sure that it's the right thing for you, because what works for one person isn't necessarily going to work for another person. And dosaging and all that kind of stuff is important, or even more so in things that aren't, that are just easily accessible on the shelf. So definitely take control, or take responsibility for what you put into your body. Okay, so the deck that I'm using, I'm sorry, I've been shoveling this forever. These are interesting conversations. I love these conversations. Is the Universal Mind Oracle. This, I'm pretty sure there is another version of this out since this, and I couldn't tell you what changed. I know some of the cards changed. It wasn't enough of a change that for me, although some of the cards that I didn't like as much in here were changed, but it wasn't enough to buy the deck, the second edition of the deck, for me personally. So, but I do like this deck. I think it's beautiful. Again, some of the things that I didn't like about it were more like there's so many beautiful, beautiful cards, but then sometimes there was too much of the Photoshop. Sorry, my nose is itching. Where things look like it's about stuck, things that are, just kind of photoshopped and stuck on, that in my opinion kind of ruined some of the beautiful, beautiful cards. But for the most part, it's a stunning, stunning deck. That's one of my favorite cards. So most of the cards are beautiful. And like I said, the edition that you can get right now, she fixed some of those kinds of things, I believe. But I'm trying to find, there's really, most of them are just beautiful, absolutely beautiful. I think, yeah, I do with CBD oil. Yeah, it helps my restless legs and sleeping. We are very natural living here in New Zealand. We have good alternative choices, but it's important to get the right information. Yes, exactly, Hectares. I think it's really important. And I think it's a good importance, right? I do think even if you're, let me just step back for a moment, because I think that responsibility stays the same. Even if you're going to a doctor, doctors are not gods. Some of them have God complexes, but doctors are not gods. And so just because they quickly write out a prescription for you for XYZ does not mean that it is going to be something that works fantastically for you either, right? And yet we often are, in some ways, even more nervous to go back to a doctor and say, like, this stuff is not good, or the side effects are outweighing the benefits of XYZ, right? So I think that no matter what we are putting into our bodies, whether it's from the doctors or from the shelf at the health food store, I do think that we have a responsibility to navigate our own bodies and navigate, and we know ourselves more than anyone. And so making sure that we are doing our proper due diligence to say, okay, what is in this particular medicine, so that I can figure out if this is something that I want to put in my body, and what are the alternatives as if this isn't what I want to put in, and going back and saying, this isn't really working, let's try something else. Being our own, it's one of the things that having a child who was sick his whole life taught me. You have to be an advocate, well, A, for your child if you have a child, because they can't, but you have to be an advocate for your own health and the health of people you're responsible for, because doctors are amazing, and I would not have had my son for 23 years if it wasn't for some absolutely amazing doctors and medical technology and modern medicine, right? I would not have had him as long as I did if it was not for them. So this is not a bash on the medical system. I am very happy that we had the medical system in place for my son. But it's not the be all and end all. And very often the whole health aspect is missing. And so that's something that at least in, I would say in modern American medicine. Now that's not always the case, but sometimes that whole body and seeing the body as a whole working thing versus just one space that we are, the doctors focus on the liver or will focus on the lungs. There's a place for both, I think, in the world, and we have to be responsible for what we put in our mouth or into our bodies, whether or not we are getting it from a doctor or getting it from a health food store. So anyways, there we go. There we go. Be responsible, be your own advocate. If something doesn't work, don't just suffer there. I've talked, I have friends who were taking something for a long time and it wasn't working. I'm like, go back to the doctor and say that this isn't working. There's other things you can try. Anyways, be your own advocate. And many things, right? That goes across the board. Social media, we've talked about this before. If we don't like what we're receiving in our feeds, be an advocate for your feeds. Don't subscribe to the people that don't build you up in some way. Navigate your own world. Nobody is responsible for us except for ourselves, right? We can give over some of that responsibility to a partner or somebody, or your parents can continue to feel responsible for you even when you're 50. But in the end, we're the person that's responsible for what we're putting in through our eyes, through our ears, through our mouth, all of that. Yeah, Jones Davies muted things. There's just so many. There are tools if you take the time to figure them out. There are tools to, even in social media, to take control of what's coming in. So I think that goes for across the board, not just in medical ways. I know I've shuffled this one to death now too, but we come up with people are having interesting conversations. Right? People are having interesting conversations. It's hard not to get sidetracked. Okay, so let's pull some cards. See what happens when Nikki's not here? Miss Veronica's nice. Actually, Miss Veronica, I think, likes the sound of card shuffling. So she's not ever going to say, Callie, stop shuffling that deck and pull a card. All right, let's see what we get. Ooh, we have Spirit with a Pegasus unicorn. We have Energetic Shift. Chris, I already did it. I beat you to it. Ooh, and we have Naked. Jamie, now everybody's yelling, stop shuffling your cards and pull it. I already did it. I already did it. Too late. Too late. I self-regulated. I self-regulated because Nikki wasn't here. So we have this essence of there being a spirit shift, right? This is an interesting card. I did, no, that was Soul, I think. There is, I put it on my Instagram. There's a really good, deck that you can't get right now. It's out of print, but it is coming back into print, called the Curious Oracle. But I mention it because you can go to the website at curiousoracle.com, and the spread, she puts the spread up. So I don't like to give away somebody's spread if it's their spread. But she actually has it up on the website, and she kind of goes through all the positions. And it's a 7-card reading, meant to be done obviously with her oracle, but you can do it with, I've done it with tarot and things as well. And it's a really good check-in. It's kind of aligned with energetic points in the body, but I really like the way that she asks the questions of each of those positions. And it's like as a check-in. I can't remember what she called. I just did it last night. I can't remember the name of the spread, but if you go to curiousoracle.com and go to I think spreads, it has it in there. And it's a great kind of check-in with your soul. It's just like an overarching spiritual check-in. You couldn't find it here. Let me see if I can find it real quick. I know I'm digressing, but I think this would be a good one for people to do. So 1 second. Let me find it and link it. All right, my allergies are really wreaking havoc on me. Okay, here it is. So then let me find layouts. Okay, and it's called State of the Soul. I'm going to link to it. And that is the same place you can link to for the actual deck. Again, it's the edition. It's sold out right now, but there is a place for the fifth edition that comes out. There is a place to put your email address in so you're notified when it comes out. But my point is that she shares the actual spread, and I've done this spread for myself quite a few times, and I really love this. And I've also done it with tarot, and I know that other people have used different decks with the spread. I just think that it's the way that she asks the question that really provides a lot of insight and a nice way to sort of check in with your spirit, check in with your soul. Is what made me think of it, because it's talking about energetic shifts in your spirit. There are things that are shifting and moving, and whenever things are shifting and moving, it leaves us feeling vulnerable. I love this Naked card because there is that sense of vulnerability, right? Your skin is open to the elements. And this can be a good thing because we can absorb all kinds of wonderful things. So there is a beauty to vulnerability and being open, right? And so that's a beautiful thing, but there is a sense of vulnerability to the skin. It's such a, it's our senses. It has all of the nerves in there. We receive information, whether the air is cool or whether the air is too hot. Is a touch too hard or is a touch too soft? Oh, they're talking about universal mind. This is not a new card because this is the first edition. I wonder if she pulled it out of the second edition. Anyways, I'll come back to that in a minute. I'll look at the paper. So I love this because it's a reminder to ourselves that it's a good thing when there are energy shifts going on, right? When there's a shift in our spirit, the energy surrounding our spirits right now may be in flux, may be shifting. And to understand that can leave us feeling vulnerable. It can leave us open to gaining information from our skin, right? But it can also leave us a little bit vulnerable. So maybe being a little bit wise in the coming week, right? About your boundaries. If your spirit is undergoing a shift in energy, if things are kind of moving and you're working with things, because remember, we had pulled out the Five of Swords for our week card as well, right? Which can be complicated energy there. And so when that's happening, we are going to feel more vulnerable. We don't want to totally shut our skin down because we can gain so much insight and wisdom and information. But at the same time, we want to be careful and we want to make sure that we are setting up good boundaries and being aware that maybe we're a little bit vulnerable right now. And so navigating our world in such a place, and so that we feel we can allow this shift to happen and feel comfortable about it. And so I think that's a really good reminder in combination, especially with the Five of Swords that we pull from the Art of Life. So I really love that. I think that's pretty neat. It's a beautiful, beautiful deck. I've had only great experiences with it. I'm trying to find out for Jamie. It does, now this says first edition. So you probably have it. Jamie says I have the first edition. So yeah, maybe check, because this says first edition. I don't know if there were more than one first editions. That I don't know. But it does say first edition on the card, or on this card. So I'm not sure. So talking about selling downloads of those cards, I don't know if I think they're talking about this deck. I'll see if I can find it to link it. I know Nikki's not here to do the linking. So oh, she's changed her belief system. Okay, I didn't know that. I have this deck, but I have used it quite a bit, but I don't, it's not something I follow, because obviously I already have it. So it's not like I would go look there. So apparently, okay, so sorry. I mean, there's people who want this. Apparently this is not in alignment with her belief system anymore. And I don't know where, I don't know where Jones Davy found that at. I'm trying to find it. Sorry, folks. This, I know, is not fun to watch, but I'm trying to find it so that maybe, I don't think Jones Davy can link. Maybe I can. Oh, you do have the card, Jamie Loom. Okay. Anyways, apparently, oh, it's on the sidebar on the Etsy shop. Okay, Mr. Jones Davy. So apparently she's selling downloads of the deck so that you can print your own deck, is what I'm trying to get to. I'm getting there. I'm getting there, folks. I can send you a link in case you want to download it. Universal Mind Oracle. Printable, yeah, here it is. So $13.99. A44 card intuitive. Da, da, da. Word from the artist. Many of the views expressed in this deck are no longer applicable in my belief system. Nonetheless, I will continue to provide those cards in a printable version only for persons connected to the artwork. The digital version makes it more accessible to everyone, especially international customers. Easily print this Oracle deck onto standard size cardstock, cut, and begin to work with the cards right away. So here, I will put a link to this. I thought there was a share on Etsy. I feel like this is going to be too long because it's got the search in there, but I'll try. Somebody maybe click it and see if it works. Yeah, that's too many letters. Sorry, folks. If you go to Etsy and type in Universal Mind Oracle, you'll find it, and there is a printable version. And it looks like it's that second edition where she has put the elemental sign on the card itself versus giving us a list of the elements. So there you go. $13.99. Go to Etsy, type in Universal Mind Oracle. Okay, sorry, that was a little sidetrack. Now I can't find my way back to us. There we are. Okay, I think they're talking dental procedures and I think still CBD oil. I love to kind of see the scattered conversations that are going on throughout the chat. The beauty of Which one should I buy first? Illuminated Earth or Healing Earth? Oof. You know, I am actually the worst person to ask for that because I am right now massively in love with the Illuminated Earth. I've used it in a number of different types of reading. So I've used it for myself, obviously, by itself, and had some amazing readings with it. I have read it with clients, both in more earthy readings like my I've done quite a few ancestor readings using it, and it's been amazing. I've also used it in I've used it in a lot of like Three Voices. It's like regular tarot readings that are more, you know, topic based, and it's worked amazing in those. Like I really have put it through its paces in terms of different types of readings, and for me personally, it has just been fabulous. So my vote is going to be for the Illuminated Earth, and that's just because I've just really sunk into that deck and have been using it with in all different varieties of types of readings and found it to be fantastic. That does not mean that it's going to be the same for somebody else. Like everybody reacts to and uses decks differently, and what is like the bomb for me isn't necessarily going to be the bomb for somebody else. That's always the trouble, right, with being excited about a deck, because I can be so bombed out excited about something, and somebody else might get it and be like, oh, this just doesn't work for me, right? But my vote at the moment would be the Illuminated Earth, just because I've just been blown away by its versatility. Also visually, if you're like me and you like visual decks to kind of complement each other visually, which is something that I do enjoy, I found that it interacts with decks visually, a lot of different decks visually in a beautiful way. So that's the best I can give you. They're both great decks, but right now my answer would be the Illuminated Earth. Deborah says, can you recommend a good animal spirit oracle? Deborah, I do have a video of like all of my animal decks and sort of the yes and no's, or like what I find to be great about them and what I don't find to be great about them. So you may want to take a look at that if you haven't seen that video. That might help you at least see, because again, my great video decks would not be the same as your great decks. But I can say the ones that I use the most, again, I apologize for the sniffing. I have 3 decks that I probably use the most. I have the Animal Spirit by Susan, the Animal Spirit Knowledge cards by Susan Seddon Boulay. I really love that deck. It's not on my shelf only because it's on my own working shelf. And so because I use that for my animals of the year. So I pulled 8 animals to work with throughout the year. I mean, I always work with my own animals, and then things are always coming in depending on what I need. But I pulled like a wheel of the year with animal deck, so that's on my working thing with like so I can prop up the images. Like right now, my animal is Crocodile from that deck. So I do love that deck. What I don't like about that deck as much is that there's not as many cards, right? I can't remember how many cards is in that. Let me just grab this. So that deck is one of my favorites. And then these are the other 3 that are ones that I use probably the most. So Spirit of the Animal Oracle by Jody Bergsma. This is an amazing supportive deck. So for me, animals decks, the function of animal decks, yes, they can call you out and like tell you what it is that you need supporting and things, so you can get more information from them. But they're really there for me as support. And sometimes that support is get your butt going, right? And motivating, but it's there for support. And so this one, The Spirit of the Animals Oracle by Jody Bergsma, is so supportive. I'm not a fan of text on cards, and it does have text on cards, but I do turn to this a lot when I just want some support. I just need animal hug, so to speak. So I love this for that. I love the secret here. I'll show you a couple of the cards. I know I said I wasn't going to stay very long, but you know, I have, I think, a little bit long. She's not going to be here till 1. So for example, here's the elephant card that we got last week. So it does have text on it, which is not my favorite thing. However, sometimes just a word or so can pop out of the text that does add to a reading. And I do like that aspect. There's almost a word scrying that can come with it. So I would say this is one of my favorites. If I had to pick one, I don't have to pick one because I'm going to keep them all. But if I had to pick one, I would probably pick this one. This has 51 animals in it. I have the back upside down. So I do love this one. Good night, Hecate. This is a beautiful deck, Secret Language of Animals by Chip Richards with the artwork by Jimmy Manton. This is a really more of a, I would say this has a much more of a strong feel to it. And in fact, it has a very masculine feel to it. So I do really love, maybe I should flip it over. I do love the artwork on it, and the color palette is very strong. So there is a much stronger feel. I mean, they're all strong. They're all the same animals, right? Not all the same, but they have the same. But there is something about this when I just need the strength of an animal. Again, you know, different decks can have different feelings to how you relate to them. So this is a really great animal deck when I'm like accessing or tapping into the strength of a particular animal. This one has 46 cards. Now, so still, this is probably my favorite, but I love both of these because you sort of have the yin and the yang, and you kind of have the nurturing and again, this is just feels, right? They can all do the same thing. This kind of has a very masculine, strong feel, and this has a very nurturing, watery feel to it in some ways. And then the last one that I use quite a lot is Colette Baron Reed's the Spirit Animal Oracle. And I love this because it has the most cards. This has 68 cards in it. And for an animal deck, that is probably the biggest that I'm aware of. I'm just pulling this out of the recesses of my brain, but I think this may be one of the larger animal decks. So what I love about this is that it has 68 animals to pull from. So that gives you a wider range of animals that you can pull out. I also use the Mystical Shaman deck quite a bit, so I like that they visually look really well. And I love some of the images. Like this is a great example. I absolutely love the images. I love the color palette. The only thing that I don't like about this deck is the crowns. I'm not a big fan. And again, it's just to represent that we're not talking about the animal out in the woods necessarily. We're talking about the overarching spirit of this animal. And so that, but you get over it. Like this is stunning. Like it's a stunning spider card. I love it. Whereas, I mean, I love this little guy. And I even like the cow with all the flowers around it. That's a sweet card. It's more just like this, like the grasshopper with the little crown on it. I'm just not a fan of the crowns and the earrings and things on the animals. That's just a personal thing. But I have to say, yes, this is a CBR. But I have to say, it's a stunning deck. The cardstock is amazing. There's 68 animals. The coloration on the deck is gorgeous. So, yeah, I have come to just, you know, accept that some of the animals are going to have earrings and crowns. But then the some, like, I wish they were all like this. That's stunning. This is stunning. And some of it I love. Like this is stunning, even though it has feathers and things on it. And I love this little rabbit, even though he's got leaf wings on him. This is adorable. So I do really love this deck. I use it a lot. My only caveat, and this is just personal preference, is the earrings and the crowns. But the color tone, the card stock, the amount of animals, that kind of stuff is that is the only thing that I have minus this. Now, I will say that I can't tell you really much about the guidebook. I don't tend to use animal deck guidebooks. I really work with animal energy a lot. I've done a ton of research on animal energy. There are other places that I would go to if I hit an animal that I wasn't sure what it was talking about. So I'm not really advocating it because of the guidebook, because I don't tend to find, for me personally, I don't tend to find these types of decks have like in-depth guidebooks. But yeah, Wendy exactly says she doesn't notice it. After you just get over, and some people love it. So this is not, there's nothing wrong with it. For me personally, I just wanted, because I had worked so much with the mystical shaman, which I love. Again, don't really recommend the guidebook, but I love the mystical shaman deck. And so I was so excited to have that really earthy feel. And so when there were like crowns and things like that, it was like, but like, I love the bear. So I love this deck. I use it a lot. This is probably my most used one. Well, these two are definitely kind of part on course, but for getting down and doing work with the mystical shaman, I use this a lot. And I use this a lot for support. So I know I'm not a good one to say which one to get. Does this have a raven? Yes. So let's say, what is somebody asking? This has a cow in it. Yes. And it has raven. I think it has two ravens. I think it has a white raven and a black raven. Yeah, there's the white raven spirit. And then I think there's either a regular raven or it's a crow. Let me look at the guidebook. As you can see, I've not even really done anything with the guide. It's just me. I don't buy decks for their guidebooks generally. I buy them for the cards and then do my own thing. Let's see. I don't see a black raven. I think it must be crow. So it has crow spirit and white raven spirit. Yes, I love Angel and Ancestors. It's an amazing oracle deck. Jacob's reading says, so let me wrap this up. So whoever, I'm so sorry now, I don't even remember who asked about animal spirit decks. Some of it's visual. Like, take a look at that video where I went through all my animal decks and see what resonates with you. This is going to give you the most animals as far as I can tell, other than I think there's a new deck somebody mentioned that has 100. But this gives you a nice chunk of animals. I didn't do this on video. I did it for Patrick and I. We went through before I picked which deck I was going to use for thing. We went through to compare like the overlap and what animals were the same and what animals are different. But I do really love this. If you were to get two, I would probably say get these two. If you're going to get three, I would say get these three. I buy all the animal decks. Like, that's just a thing for me. So I'm the worst person to ask about animal decks. Okay, so hopefully that helps. All right, now I'm going back because Jacob asked me a question. I do have to leave pretty soon, though, because I need to do a couple things before my daughter gets here to finish her decluttering. She did assign me some tasks, like my paint desk, which is pretty much done. I just need to take everything off of it. So I have to do my assignments from my daughter before she comes and helps to dig through the hard stuff. But let me answer Jacob's question here. What are some decks you consider part of the yin, part of the yang or masculine side? That's a hard one, isn't it? Yes, there is a lot of feminine energy in. Hi, tribal woman. I think I missed you slipping in there. I think it's a hard question, and it's something maybe I should do a video of pulling out the decks that I do feel have more of a masculine feel. I definitely, again, this was one of my go-tos for masculine energy because it felt very, it has a very masculine feel to Jimmy Manton's artwork. And again, if you look at like his goddess decks, even his gods and goddess decks, and even the goddess deck has a very strong yang energy. It's a yang version, you know, because we all have yang in us, right? And so his goddesses are very much that powerful yang energy to his goddesses. So I think it's the way he does his artwork. And so I tend to use this a lot, trying to get that sort of more masculine feeling oracle, which are very hard to find. Now, I did find one that I haven't done a walkthrough yet to get a feel for it. But the Sacred Spirit reading cards, I don't know, did you ask Tarot? I'm probably going on the wrong direction. Or tarot decks for me should be, Stephen Farmer has a really big book on animal energy that you might want to look at, Wendy. Tarot decks for me, I'm not really looking for masculine or feminine. I really want my tarot decks to be balanced. So that's a big thing for me. I tend to feel like I want my tarot decks to be a balance between the two and not be more feminine or not be more masculine. Exception of that is the Moonchild Tarot, which still has a feminine feel to it, but it's still got a earthy feminine. And I do love that deck for healing readings. But for the most part, I want my tarot decks to be balanced. I will say that in terms of men that I have looked through my collection, the Darkness of Light Tarot does seem to really attract men for having a masculine feel to it. And so there's a different, I guess in my head, there's a big difference between masculine and men, right? Because men have masculine and feminine sides. Women have masculine and feminine sides. We have both those energies within us. So I guess it's a question of what feels masculine, yang, powerful energy versus what appeals to men is two actually very different questions. But I do love the Darkness of Light for that. Oracle-wise, there's not much out there that doesn't feel super feminine, right? There really isn't. Definitely more cartomancy style has a very yang feel to it, very active energy to it. So things like Sibylla and Lenormand and things like that, like the Mildred Payne I'm totally losing it. The one that I love of, the Mildred Payne Oracle has a very masculine, active force feel to them, versus more of a softer feeling of that yin energy, a more flowy, receptive feel to them. That cartomancy feels very masculine, that sense of active energy. But there's not a lot of, so things like the Oracle of Reflections, that again has a cartomancy style feel to it. Even Madame Endora's, all the things that feel cartomancy have a very active feel to it. To me, again, this is me personally, but this is a great deck, Oracle deck, and I need to do a walkthrough of it. That has a lot of, it feels both feminine and masculine, but it has a lot of male figures in it, which we just don't get a lot of in Oracle decks. So I definitely need to put this higher up on my list of doing a walkthrough on. I'm going to stick it on my desk. Open portals, again, that's cartomancy, right, Jones Davy? I do feel like cartomancy style decks have a very masculine energy that I greatly appreciate, because obviously I have masculine energy in me, and as a Libra, I feel like I have a lot of fire in my chart. I have that sort of active pushing brain that you think of with masculine energy or yang energy. And so I do think these type of decks really can appeal to that type of energy. But Open Portals is a really good suggestion, Jones Davy. It's that style of just getting in and doing the work. Although I will say, with all of the portals and openings, it also, this deck I feel like has a bit of a good balance. There is a feminine and a masculine ebb and flow in this deck. So this one is, I love this deck. So these decks, this definitely has, I think, a very good balance to it. But the question, he said, and I'm going to have to go, but the question was more, he kind of said he's looking maybe more male appealing. Again, that's going to really make a difference between the man, right? Because every man's different, and just like every woman's different in what appeals to them. But I do find Darkness of Light. I actually do find Ciro Marchetti's Legacy of the Divine, that one tends to appeal to some men that I know have actually commented on it. But I would say I get the most comments on the Darkness of Light, where just people maybe that don't even read tarot, because I have it out usually on my desk a lot. And so I've just had a lot of men say, I really like the artwork, that they really appeal. Something about the artwork, something about the coloration, maybe of the black, of the more darker tones, tends to appeal to. It's picked up the most, I would say, by men. But that's such a hard thing to say, because again, every guy, just like every woman, is going to have very different what they find appealing. It's then you're starting to get into a specific maybe type of man that finds this one appealing versus another one. Same thing with women. So it's a hard question. But I think it's far easier to find overly feminine decks, especially in the Oracle world, than it is to find either balanced decks or masculine feeling decks. Fountain Tarot. Thank you, Veronica Jude. Yeah, same thing with Fountain Tarot. Fountain Tarot, I feel like the Fountain Tarot and the Darkness of Light Tarot are an amazing combination. They're just clean. I feel like sometimes men, and again, this is such a generic statement, so I really do believe that every single person is different in terms of what they're going to appeal to. So please don't think that I think this is a simple topic that you can just say men like this and men don't. However, I do find that the men that I have had that have looked at my decks seem to respond to very clean artwork. The Fountain Tarot has that sort of clean light energy to it, whereas the Darkness of Light has a very clean dark energy to it, in terms of coloration and this artwork. That those two decks, I think, is a perfect combo to have. I love those two decks. And again, I do too, because I have strong air and strong fire, right, in my chart. So I am a very active energy female. And so those types of decks also appeal to me, because it appeals to me, that sort of clean, I don't know how else to say that. There's a sense of clarity and cleanness that does very much appeal to my masculine-driven, yang-driven energy that appeals to me. So yeah, those are two decks that I would definitely, two tarot decks that I would say are great if you're looking for that sort of clean energy that doesn't really bring so much drama to the table as some. And I don't want to say drama, high energy. So let's take exactly like the Marielle. The Marielle brings like a power to it and a depth to it. When you pick up those cards, they feel like deep and they feel weighted in a powerful way. And that is wonderful, but it does lend a tone to the reading. So if you're already talking about maybe really deep topics, then it really can have that add extra weight to a reading, and versus, say, the Fountain Tarot, which I think is an amazing neutral deck. I don't think it brings any emotional subtext, and it doesn't bring any weighted subtext. It's just clean. And so sometimes that is exactly what's needed, I think, in a reading where, okay, we've already got a lot of emotions going on. We've got a lot of depth, a lot of weight, a lot of thing, and maybe we don't want to add any more weight, or we don't want to add extra flowy emotion. We just want to get in there and do the work without there being added subtext being brought in by the deck itself. And I think both the Darkness of Light and the Fountain Tarot do that very well in very different coloration tones. And I know, see, I am such a geek. This is the stuff that I love. Okay. Okay, sorry. I do need to go, but let me, oh, here, somebody has my name in capital letters. When do you think you'll start your next tarot class? My next tarot class probably will not start until the beginning of the year. I already did tarot for this. I kind of cycled through, and I did Lenormand, and then I did tarot. I'm getting ready to do a journey tokens class, and then it will go geomancy, and then runes, and then no, oghams and runes, I think is the order that it goes. So it will be the beginning of next year. I see that, Wendy. I will check that. Okay, some bunny kisses, I think, asked for. You know what? If you could restate the question, bunny kisses, I'll answer it real quick. But me trying to find it is not probably going to work. So if you want to I'll wait for that, Miss Bunny Kisses. I don't see a question from you other than, can you answer the question? So if you can re-ask your question so that I can try to quickly answer that, and then I do need to go. Bye, Elizabeth. I hope you guys all have a wonderful rest of your day while I'm waiting for Miss Bunny Kisses. I'm scrolling while I have heard the Thoth deck as well. I've definitely heard that the Thoth, and I do see the Thoth as having a masculine feel to it, but the Thoth deck to me also has a weighty depth feeling as well, similar to like the Marielle or those types of things that has a lot of weight to it. But I've definitely heard that men do tend to be attracted to the Thoth more, or I should say the masculine, maybe of the people that are looking for that masculine energy in a deck do tend to lean towards the Thoth as well. I've heard that, whether that's how far that goes or not, I don't know. Oh, it's just if you can do a review of the supers, I'm having a hard time connecting to it. I have a pile, so I can't tell you exactly when that's going to happen, but let me add it to the pile. I have not done a review of that. So are you sure I haven't done a review of it? I was waiting for that so long. I feel like I have a review of that up. I'll check and see. If I don't, I will put it on the list. But maybe Google if you go to a channel, there's a search bar that you can search within the channel and just maybe double check that I don't have one. I'm sure you already checked or you probably wouldn't have asked the question. Maybe I didn't. I just was so excited to get it. I think I unboxed it live. I'll see. Nico, I always throw your name off, says that I have. I really feel like I did. Maybe it was a live, walkthrough, and I haven't done it, sat down and done it. I can't. Yeah, I'll check into it. It may have just been an unboxing, Bunny, because I was so excited to get it. That's very possible. I will check. If I haven't done a walkthrough, I will put it on the list. I'm in the middle of doing a walkthrough of the the Shaman's Oracle, because I use that a lot. And I have never done a walkthrough of it. So I'm doing that. That's got to finish up first, but I will put it over there so I check into it, Bunny Kisses. Okay, I'm going to go. You guys have an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. I know that I'm going to have a wonderful, if hardworking, rest of my day. And I will talk to you guys all later. Have a wonderful, wonderful Sunday, however that looks for you and where you are. And I'll talk to you later.